Hello, friends. Hello, friends. I hope you are able to hear me now. I'm giving a presentation on emotional intelligence, life success through managed emotions. IQ focus is on analytical decision making, and IQ has its limitations. It is the way we think from the left side of our brain. It is yes or no kind of situation, whereas for all-round life work success, we need emotional quotient. EQ's focus is on managing relationships. What developing EQ will do for you is that it will be able to recognize your own emotions and emotions of others. Use this awareness to manage your behavior and improve your relationship and achieve harmonious life work success. During startup creation, we teach co-founders about emotional intelligence through mentoring. Why we do this is because we want them to manage relationships within the organization because they are under a highly stressful situation when creating a startup. They really don't know where to do what and how and when and why. It's all hazy. So through emotional intelligence training, they develop the ability to identify and regulate their own and other people's emotions. They apply this knowledge to form good relationships at home and at work, and acquire the qualities required by agile servant leaders. We need agile servant leaders at all levels of the organization and within startups to manage the way things are done and be able to deal with agile startup teams. In this module 1, we will introduce you to emotional intelligence, EI. After this, I'll be having a number of other modules, total 5 in fact. There is Daniel Goldman. He popularized emotional intelligence through his 1995 book. It's a bestseller. EI, as explained by Dr. Goldman in his book, is understanding one's own feelings, empathy for the feelings of others, and the regulation of emotion in a way that enhances living. The focus here is on feelings and on empathy. Empathy means having a very high degree of concern for others and active upon that concern in a sincere way. The objective of this module today are to understand the basics of EI, recognize that emotions influence your life and interaction with others, appreciates the benefits of EI, move towards increasing your emotional quotient. Now, what is EI? Here you see a room in a startup company. See how happy they are and they're listening to each other and at the same time doing their work. They are able to do this because they have a high degree of emotional quotient and relate to each other very well. The objectives of the whole exercise is to understand the difference between IQ and EQ, appreciate that the high performance we need to have requires both IQ and EQ. Now, till mid 1990, it was generally believed that emotions and thoughts did not go together. The belief was emotion hindered clarity of thought. When I worked in a sales job, my boss used to always tell me, go ahead and be aggressive. Only through aggressive behavior you can really win orders. Don't be emotional. Well, I kept being emotional because I found that this actually won you more customers than being aggressive. I don't understand why salespeople mostly thought that we have to be aggressive to achieve anything. Okay. Now, finally, emotional intelligence as a subject brought a new understanding that to achieve success in any area requires both IQ and EI, emotional intelligence, but more of EI than IQ, as we'll see. EI as a subject has been researched and developed only since the second half of the 1980s. Pioneering work was done mainly by Peter Salovey, John Myers, Wayne Payne, Petrides, and Daniel Goldman. The first two references to EI came from Salovey and Mayer, and they said that emotional intelligence is a form of social intelligence that involves the ability to monitor one's own and others' feelings and emotions. And it helps you to discriminate among them and to use this information to guide your own thinking and actions. Okay. So you learn how to discriminate between your emotions and feelings and that of others' emotional and feeling. And when you understand this, you understand yourself, you understand the other person, you develop a good bond. And this is what is emotional intelligence, as the term is used today. Thanks to Selovi and Mayer, we have got this right now. Mayer and Salovey very, very well described emotional intelligence, and the definition they give here is actually an operational definition of emotional intelligence. It is how you would actually apply it. This is not a theoretical definition. Just remember when we read through this slowly, emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive emotions. Okay, we when we are emotionally intelligent, we learn how to see emotions, to assess and generate emotions so as to assist thought, our own thought, to assess and generate emotions, our own emotions, to assist our own thinking, and to understand emotions and emotional knowledge. Okay? We get to understand how the mind really works and how emotions and emotional intelligence can be used to understand our own inner working and to reflectively regulate emotions so that we promote emotional and intellectual growth. Wow, that is something. And a lot of growth has happened in this area. And today, with EFMRI, we can actually see how the mind works. For each emotion that comes into our mind, a particular area of the brain lights up due to fMRI. More blood goes there because the cells are active and they need more blood. That's the way we study. Actually, we can't see how cells are thinking, but we can see the amount of blood that rushes to their aid to give them energy to think. And the brain requires 20% of all the energy that we use just to think and regulate us. Imagine a small piece like that requires 20%, and the body and locomotion doesn't. Each part doesn't require all that much. So collectively only 80%. Okay, developing EI capability enables you to understand your own and others' feelings and behavior. This knowledge helps to develop cordial personal relationship and achieve success on any job, of course, and as well as at home. Maybe it is more important to have emotional connect with our own relatives and siblings and friends than it is on the job. Because on the job, you get away from it, but you cannot get away from your work. You can get away from your work, but you cannot get away from your relationships with your friends and relatives. Job is only one of the many parts of our life. So knowledge of emotions and how they work enable us to better understand yourself and others. Understanding emotions gives an insight into how emotions influence decisions. Now, a lot of body language is involved in this. So the words we speak really say 80% of what we really mean. These are just words, and words are interpreted differently by different people. Whereas our tone and the way we express ourselves, they account for about 35%. And the rest, a large chunk, is accounted for by our body language. Now look at this person. In the first picture, he looks very confident, and we see, yes, this fellow is interested. He's truthful, and we believe it when he's like this. Now, when he assumes a pose as in two, well, we do not have the same idea of what he's really doing. We feel that maybe he's a bit uh, tied up with his own feelings and not really understanding what we're doing, or doesn't want to do what we want him to do. Things like that. Okay. Now, IQ is an assessment of a person's general mental capabilities and is related to reasoning, understanding concepts, and problem solving. It's quite impersonal. IQ tests measure your ability to understand concepts and solve problems. It's all, dry, curt and dry. And people devise IQ tests based on the culture and what people there actually know and learn. It is not, so accurate across cultures. IQ developed for Europe and America would not really work in, say, Indian or Japanese or Chinese culture. We need different things to survive and to work, and we have different IQs. Really, you require different knowledges. Okay, now let's look at EQ. EQ is a qualitative measure of EI. Here we say qualitative measure, means that it is related to something which is not quantifiable. It is what we know as feelings, qualitative feelings. EQ is measured by qualitative feelings. And, these feelings are from our own point of view, how well we understand human behavior and manage social interactions. It's all very specific to your environment and who you deal with. Now, relating IQ and EQ to a job. Well, you would have heard many people say this. IQ gets you hired and EQ gets you promoted. At the time of assessments and promotions, when people get promoted, many people say, oh, this fellow doesn't deserve it. He doesn't have the intelligence. He doesn't know the nitty-gritty of the job. They fail to understand that the nitty-gritty of the job itself means probably only 10% of what's on the job. The rest of the job is interaction between humans and how they get to solve problems together and get the company moving forward. So obviously, people who promote this culture of helping the company to move forward will get promoted. So those who do not agree with this, they need to get themselves enrolled in a program for emotional quotient, and they'll get as good as them and get better promotions prospects. Now, EQ is a qualitative measure, as we saw earlier. Now, IQ gives you balanced performance and decision making, and this accounts for only 10% of what is required on any job or in any interaction. As I showed you by going back, EQ is a qualitative measure. And this is what it consists of: self awareness, self management, self motivation, empathy, and social skills. When we have all this, we are really socially well aware. Now, high performance and success really equate to IQ and EQ. So, intelligent quotient means that you have a strong intellect and experience. Emotional quotient means that you have high EQ, which enables you to excel at work and enables good logical decision making. This is done by emotional quotient, sorry, intelligence quotient, enables good logical decision making, whereas EQ helps you to have emotional management based decisions, which, as we said, are more important than logical decision making. The advantage of developing high EQ is that you improve relationships. You become a better team player. It gives you better communication ability, makes you more empathetic. You improve career prospects. This gives you confidence. You get more satisfaction from your work, and it reduces stress. You are more creative, and you learn from your mistakes. You do not learn from your mistakes if you do not have emotional quotient. You think you're right, everybody else is wrong. And so obviously, you do not make mistakes if you work on an IQ level. You think other people are wrong. But as an EQ bent frame of mind person, you learn from your mistakes. Now, can EQ for any person be improved? Yes, it can be. EQ evolves and increases with methodological training and practice. And IQ, unfortunately, remains significantly unchanged across a lifetime. In our program, our focus will be on improving your EQ. Now, gentlemen, and ladies, we are at the end of our presentation. Please visit my website. This is the website. And in webinars section of the website is learning11x.in. In the webinar section of the website, you will see the key you can use to enter any of our webinars on YouTube channel. The above link is your free pass to see all 14 webinars, and then we give a schedule of the 14 webinars we are having from today evening till on 1st January, the last webinar. Which significant is creating an organization that dominates its niche market. In between, we have all the subjects that are required to cover becoming a great company. Okay, gentlemen, we have come to the end of our discussion today, and we're ending this